Welcome back to Living the Reclaimed Life. I'm your host, Denisha. Now, I don't know about you, but in the world we're living in right now, it feels like we could all use more stories of hope, more encouragement, and more reminders that healing is possible. That's why we're inviting you to a special event next week designed to lift your heart, strengthen your faith, and remind you that God is still writing beautiful stories even in the middle of hard places. If you're here in Tucson, we would love for you to join us for our evening of Rescued and Restored on October 3rd, our annual fundraising dinner filled with worship, testimonies, and a powerful glimpse of what God is doing through Reclaimed Story. With special guest speaker Robin Blumenthal, she is going to share about adverse childhood experiences and how they impact us as adults. You won't want to miss it. You can register in the link on our socials or email us at connect@reclaimedstory.com. We would love to see you there. Today, we're diving into a powerful and deeply personal conversation with author and chaplain Nanci Lamborn. Nanci's memoir, Angry Daughter, A Journey from Hatred to Love, is a raw and redemptive story of navigating childhood trauma, wrestling with decades of bitterness, and discovering the healing power of God's love. With honesty, vulnerability, and even humor, she shares how her journey through grief, forgiveness, and heart-healing prayer led her from resentment to restoration. So lean in with me, because in this conversation, you'll be encouraged to know that no wound is too deep, no past too painful, and no heart too broken for the healing presence of Jesus. I am so excited to welcome to the podcast today minister, author, and speaker, Nanci Lamborn. She helps others exchange lies for truth, bondage for freedom, and anger for joy through biblically based healing prayer. She is a survivor of childhood trauma. Her life radically changed after a healing encounter with Christ. I can't wait for you to hear about that. Since 2016, you guys, she has guided over 2,000 inner healing clients as an ordained minister and licensed chaplain. Nanci, I am so excited to have you on today to talk about all of those things and your book, also Angry Daughter, that was released last year.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
This is going to be great. I love what you bring to this audience and just to our lives. So let's just jump right in.
Okay.
So you wrote a book called Angry Daughter, and it's a journey.
I have a copy. Here it is.
Yes. Okay, awesome. Perfect. And we'll be posting that on social media too with a link.
Awesome. And it just came out last week on Audible. I'm so excited.
Yes. Fantastic. That's even better. I get through a lot more books that way.
Awesome.
So you say that it is a journey from hatred to love. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So first, I never planned to write any book, much less this book. But obviously the Lord laughs, at our plans. My journey, like so many other women, my mother and I had a very unhealthy, rocky, tumultuous relationship. It was never healthy. She didn't like me very much and I didn't like her very much. And this was my normal life. Also, I was experiencing childhood trauma of the worst kind while I lived in our home by some male relatives. And my mom actually knew about it, blamed me as a very young child, and did nothing about it. And so that really began my journey of, all right, well, you didn't love me well, so I certainly can't love you well. So the anger that I had towards her just kind of became part of my identity. And I left home angry, got married right out of high school angry, and I became really an angry person. Anger really consumed my entire life. I cussed like a sailor. I hated people. I would not speak to strangers. I would, road rage at the little old lady at the stop sign. Anger was my norm. Now, anger had been normalized in my home. My mom was also very angry. And the environment knew it. When anyone was angry, they're slamming dishes and slamming doors and lots of stomping and whatnot. So when that's normalized for you, that's what's normal for you. And I never knew anything different. lot of bad choices and traumas along the way. But fast forward, I'm in a healthy marriage with a godly man who starts praying for me. Not like, oh, Lord, please fix my wife. It wasn't like that. It was, God, just show her destiny, show her identity, be who she needs to be. It was just this general, like, be what she needs. And I actually didn't even know for a while that he was praying for me. So the Lord orchestrated a small group for us. Had never been in a small group before. I was a good evangelical girl. Had never heard of these little small group things. That was weird. But we joined this small group, and these people were much more spiritually mature than we were. They'd even seen miracle healings, and, we'd never heard of that. That was really odd. But loved these people and just grew a lot, learned a lot. Well, there was a couple in this small group, and she was older than my parents. They're older than my parents. And this lady, her name is Lucy, she ended up becoming my mentor. And she shared that she did this weird thing where she prayed for people in her house. And I thought, well, that's weird. You do you, okay. And
Weird thing.
It was so weird. I, never heard of that. But she was the most peaceful, wise, spirit-filled, not like head in the clouds, but she just walked in a level of submittedness and peace with the Lord that I'd never met with anyone else. So got to know her and her family. She got to know me and my family. And after about a year of just being in relationship, one day at church, she came up to me and she said, I'd like to experiment on you. I was like, okay, I trust you, whatever that looks like. Well, she sat me down and she had figured out over the last year the source of my anger. And it was the mother wound. And I never heard of the term mother wound. And had you asked me, I don't think I would have cognitively agreed that my issues with my mom were the source of my life's disappointments and frustration. But through this beautiful time of prayer and just seeking the Lord and asking hard questions of the Lord and being willing to answer those, for the first time ever, I was 45 years old. For the first time ever, I actually forgave my mom. And again, had you asked me if I had not forgiven her, I would have been like, oh no, I forgive her. But there was no fruit of that. I couldn't stand the air she breathed. I mean, that doesn't go together. But the way that she walked me through forgiveness was just very different. Like, it's very line item. Mom, I forgive you for not protecting me from the abuse and blaming me. And I forgive you for the damage that's done to my life. And like, that's different. That's very specific. Obviously, very emotional, a lot of tears. And in this prayer, she had me ask the Lord, how do you see my mom? Never occurred to me to ask the Lord how he sees my mom. And what he showed me broke me. I saw a 15-year-old girl crouched down in the bottom of a closet, weeping, grieving because her dad had just died. Now, in real life, I knew my mom's dad did die very suddenly when my mom was 15. He was her world. She was his person. And my mom was the middle of 7 with a very angry, stoic, stern mother. So my mom's life ended when she was 15.
Wow.
And she stopped functioning emotionally, spiritually, social, all of the things. She was 15 until the day she died at 77. Wow. And the Lord showing me this was like, oh my gosh, it's no wonder all the things that I experienced. 15-year-olds aren't ready to be parents. They don't want to change diapers and have to go to the PTA meeting and check homework. And they don't want to have to compete with a teenage daughter. And 15-year-olds are petty and catty and moody and argumentative and dramatic and all the things that my mom was until the day she died. And it was mind-blowing and life-changing. I'm like, oh, okay, this is actually who she really is. But with the forgiveness, there was such a profound change that I was not expecting. Really just a couple days after this forgiveness experience, I went to visit my mom like I did, at least once or twice a week. She didn't live far away. And I walked in the house and I was like, what is this? I'm not irritated. I'm not offended right now. I'm not angry. Oh, wow. It was shocking how free I was when I walked in that house. I was not expecting that. And I went back to Lucy. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I want all of that. Whatever that is, give me it all. Mm-hmm. So it began this journey with her of unlearning and learning how to love her in the state that she was in. In the book, one of the chapters is actually figuring out that she is who she is. And I can choose to love the broken, grieving 15-year-old, or I can expect her to act like a mature adult. And then I'm angry and I'm offended. And my expectations are the ones that are not met, right? And when I recognized, oh, wait, I can actually just choose to love her in the broken 15-year-old state that she's in, made it easy. And she lost the capacity to wound me, offend me, hurt me, irritate me. Like it was supernatural that there was like a separation that happened that I could just love her where she was. There was such a transformation in my life. And I did have to set some boundaries because she never changed. So if I recognized that she was spiraling and wanted to start fights between people, which she often did, oh, look at the time, got to go. Love you, Mom, bye. And I would leave. And she never recognized I was setting boundaries. I knew I was setting boundaries, and that was healthy for me. But fast forward, she got COVID. This was 2021, August of 2021. She got COVID. And how it didn't kill her is a miracle itself, because she was already disabled, already had COPD, already on 14 medications, very unhealthy. So did a number on her body that she physically couldn't even hold a pencil. That's how the effect it had on her body. She was sent to a nursing home that was still taking COVID positive patients, the only one in 100 miles that was. And she fell twice within the first 8 hours. She fell. And I knew it was because she wasn't getting the care she needed. My mom was very stubborn. I'm going to do it. I don't need help. But when you need a walker and it's over there and you don't wait for help, you're going to fall. So we literally broke her out of the nursing home, out the back door. And I brought her into my home. My friends put a hospital bed in my house, and I became my mom's caregiver. And that transition is just to see where I was. How many years was this? 6 or 7 years from when I first forgave her to this is profound, because I didn't become her caregiver begrudgingly and with resentment and making her pay for her crimes or whatever. I just loved her. And it was very hard. She was obese. She was disabled. She was detoxing from closet alcoholism, which had been hidden. It was hard. It was hard, but it was beautiful. Nursed her back to health. And then just a couple months after that, she went to be with Jesus. Wow. And I got to be with her in her last breath. And that actually began the journey of the book, because when I was with her, and they hadn't told us that this was the last day, but she was seeing angels and hearing music from heaven, and like, oh, okay, like we're leaving soon. And the Lord spoke to me in her hospital room, was like, this is a beautiful sunset. And outside there was a beautiful sunset, but he was like, no, this is a beautiful sunset. And I was just filled with gratitude that this could have been very different. I could have been sitting there with anger and regret and resentment and unforgiveness and bitterness, and none of that was there. All I felt was honor and gratitude, and all I could think of with her was the good things and what she had done and the gifts that she had used, and like that also was supernatural. So it was a gift. It was a gift.
It sounds like the Lord gave you such a gift of compassion for her.
Supernatural, because I didn't have that. No, I didn't have that.
That's what I was wondering. If you had not gone through, it sounds like your turning point was that healing time, that healing prayer.
Oh, very much so. And there's a lot more that happened through those journeys with my mentor and Lucy, and just surrendering to the Lord that fundamentally changed who I was as a human. Wow. But yes, it gave me a compassion. I was never a compassionate person. I mean, to anyone. And it's changed. Yeah, it's a radical change.
Yeah, you don't strike me as a angry, cursing sailor.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Now, do you think if you had not gone through that time of healing prayer with Lucy, would you have invited your mom into your home? Would you have been able to take care of her?
Absolutely not. No. I would have left her in the nursing home and been like, well, she did this to herself. And we would have had a funeral less than a week later. I knew that she was going to die very quickly if she did not come out of there. Wow. But no, I absolutely would not have brought her in my house, because I didn't want to be around her.
What was life like growing up for you in your home? Did you attend church? What was
Oh,
life
yes.
like?
Praise Jesus. Every time the doors were open at church, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Monday night Bible study, Tuesday night GAs, Wednesday night choir rehearsal. Oh, yes. We were on the front row. Mom was a pianist. Dad was a deacon. Grandma was a missionary. We were paraded like good little, family, very visible in the megachurch. Very much so. Yes.
How did your young self
Yeah.
handle the duality of what you were seeing on Sunday morning and all of
Yeah.
these times during the week? And then what you saw, sounds like the walls within your home were very different than what
Yeah.
was being portrayed on at church. Was that
Yeah.
something true?
Well, we learn to dissociate, and we learn very quickly where the rules are and if they can be broken, where they can be broken. And I don't know that there was a big difference in being at church because the rules still applied. One glare from my mom on the piano bench, and you got a really serious whooping when you got home. Like, the only time where me and my siblings could ever be free of these where we're alone in the woods, where we've gone. Because, back in the day, in the 70s, in the summer especially, you leave when the sun comes up, you're gone all day. You come home and you find a creek or a hose somewhere and drink water, and then you come home for dinner. And so that was the only time where we didn't have these oppressions and the rules and the yelling and the not good enough and the never enough and the children were to not even to be seen. They didn't want to be seen or heard. Children need to go away somewhere else. And so that was where we had fun and make friends and, live the other part of our life. But in our house, yeah, for the most part, it was making sure you didn't make someone mad is what it felt like.
Did that ever spill over to your relationship with God? You have such a vibrant relationship with him now. How did you
Oh my gosh.
right?
I did not know the Lord. It's like they say, if someone claims they know a president, okay, well, you know their name. You can look up Wikipedia and know their birth date and maybe what food they like. But like if you call them on the phone, they're not like going to answer, say, oh, hey, how are you? Like you don't know them. And I absolutely, and one thing I'm internally grateful for was a foundation of faith. Very rare seasons of my life that I ever walked away from that. I got baptized when I was 7 or 8, rededicated my life and because, I did the whole middle school wild crowd thing, but turned it all over to the Lord as a middle schooler. I really consider that kind of my true salvation. But the Jesus I knew was not one who could practically help me with my current resentment or my current fear or my current anxiety. I have my ticket to heaven, my fire prevention ticket, which I was eternally grateful for. And once in a while, there'd be a really good worship song or a really moving song. But most of these are about heaven and later and what I'm going to go through to get there. It was very rarely about freedom in the now. I didn't know anyone that was free in the now ever until I met Lucy. I didn't know that kind of freedom was possible. Yeah. And so I got my first, we call it the eyes of the heart, right? Paul said the eyes of the heart have been enlightened. I got my first mental picture of Jesus in that first prayer time with Lucy. And it was super sweet. And I was dirty and he was wiping my face off is what I saw in this picture in my mind. And that really broke my heart, but in a good way. Like, wow, he knows that I feel dirty and I need to be cleaned off. And so my capacity to, when we talk about prayer, no one ever taught me what prayer was. The word prayer in the Greek is proseuchomai. Proseuchomai is translated in the original Greek, exchange wishes with God. We're never taught that that's what prayer means. We're taught that we pray, oh God, help, 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 and I want this, and I want this, and I want this. Thank you, amen. That's not prayer. That's either the Santa Claus usage or I'm just complaining. And Lucy taught me that prayer is a conversation where you're actually getting responses. You're hearing yes and you're hearing no, and you're hearing I love you, and you're hearing you're beautiful, and you're hearing that wasn't your fault. And that was mind-blowing and radically life-changing. So life-changing in that season that, trying to think of the timing now, 6 or 8 months after that first time with Lucy, the Lord called me out a full-time career level corporate America to do ministry full time as Lucy did it, but actually taken it 10 steps further. So yeah, the awareness of who God is, my God was in a very nice, pretty box that I appreciated. And now, like, there is no box because he is eternal and there's a new facet of him that I get almost every day. Yesterday I was praying and I had this picture in my head. It was so cool. Sounds kind of weird, but it was really cool. Like, I see Jesus in front of me and like he invited me to place my hand inside of his heart and then to like consume whatever, like to drink from him. It was neat. Like, I didn't make that up and I didn't ask for it. So yes, my awareness of who God is profoundly changed.
Yeah, it sounds like he went from the Wikipedia, I'll learn about him, to truly experiencing him.
Oh, yeah.
His love.
Yeah.
It's personal. I see a lot in pictures as well. And it's just such a personal moment with him.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to experience that.
And if I had ever heard anybody else talk about this, I would have seen it as like, well, that's nice for you.
Right. Yeah.
Only certain people get that. And now I know that is fundamentally not true.
Right. Yeah.
It's just not.
That's so true. That's so true. Yeah. So throughout your book, you walk through your journey, which is incredible. And you're very honest and raw and funny too at the same time. As you walk.
My childhood is hilarious if you think about some of it.
I share that with you. So as you walk through that, like, you really feel in touch with what you experienced, what you went through. You also included short prayers. And that to me ties into you having the heart to want others to experience that personal God. So tell us a little bit about, because it's not like, here's Nancy's life from 0 to 50. It's more
It's actually thematical. Yeah. Each chapter is a different, this one's on fear. This one's on anger. This one's on shame. This one's on injuries, all these things. I didn't plan it that way. The Lord obviously planned it that way. I'd scheduled a writing retreat. My sister is a published author. And so I thought, well, there's a book I'm thinking about writing. And I thought that that's what I was going to go to that weekend to write. And I write old school pen and paper because there's something different in the brain that happens when you do that. And I put my pen down and the first chapter of Angry Daughter came out within like 30 minutes. Wow. And I was like, oh, okay, Lord, I guess we're doing this now. And my mother had passed away already, trying to think the timing, maybe 6 months before then. And part of the whole writing process was very healing, cathartic for me, just processing grief. And because after the person you hated for so long is no longer there because they passed away, how you process that grief looks very different. It just does. But as I began to put pen to paper, first, it seemed natural to include a prayer at the end of each section because these were the things that got me, that I'd been taught by Lucy or by other ministries or training that helped me get free of a particular thing, shame or guilt or fear or whatever. And I didn't want the story to go to waste, right? God doesn't waste pain if we give it to him. So I didn't want it just to be all, negative. Oh, I'm better. Nice. But the story is so common. Like you said, the story of women who have the mother wound, right, is so common. I wanted to give people a key to actually get free of it, not just to commiserate, but to actually like, oh, I can actually pray this. Oh, for myself? That's great. So that's how they came about, was just a very short, exactly what I would have said in a moment if I needed to release prayer or forgive or what have you. I've gotten a lot of feedback about those 3-line prayers at the end of each chapter. And they're different. You don't find a lot of books with that. But I wanted to empower the people who are reading it to realize that they don't have to stay stuck either.
So what would you say to the person who's hearing going, well, good, you could forgive your mom, but that's not for me. I can't forgive my mom, or my mom's no longer alive, or there can't be reconciliation.
Yep.
What would you say? What's your experience? What would you say to someone who's coming in with that thought?
Sure. Okay, a couple things. So first of all, forgiveness and reconciliation are not the same thing. I would actually say that there was never really a true reconciliation with my mom. She never owned what happened, never apologized for it, never admitted fault. And she also really didn't heal from her own narcissism and her drama and all those things. So if I'm waiting for someone else to get all of their ducks in a row and get healed to forgive. I'm going to wait for eternity. Okay. The way I counsel people is that forgiveness is not a feeling. Forgiveness is a decision. It is a transaction. It's a choice that I make. It's an act of my will, whether I feel like it or not. We have to look at the story of the servant who would not forgive, right? Jesus told the story, the parable of the man that owed 10,000 talents. We miss the severity of that debt because we don't know what that means. 1 talent in Hebrew culture was 16 years of wages. 1 talent, 16 years. This man owed 10,000 of that. He owed 160,000 years of wages. Okay? So it's billions with a B, American dollars today.
Not a small debt.
It's not a small debt. The master forgives it. And then the next day, the friend only owes, it's the equivalent of maybe a month of wages, a couple $1,000s in comparison. Now, he won't forgive it. And what's the master say? You wicked slave, yesterday I forgave you billions of dollars, and today you won't forgive a couple thousand? I'm going to turn you to the torturers to be tormented until you pay me back every penny. And then what did Jesus say? So shall my heavenly Father do to you if you don't forgive. Ouchie, that hurts a lot. It hurts a lot. Okay? If we don't recognize that we are the one in the story that has been forgiven the billions because of what the Lord has forgiven us for, when we look at our own sin debt record that the enemy has recorded, we have to recognize that that's us. So if the Lord has taken my sin debt record and nailed it to Jesus, who am I to hold someone else's sin debt record? I'm not the Lord, right? I don't get the right to hold that record. Real important. Forgiveness is not always reconciliation and relationship. Is God a God of reconciliation and relationship? Yes. It takes 2 people to do that. And I can't do the work for both people. They have to want to be reconciled, recognize that there's an issue, and be willing to do hard things to make that happen. Many of us will never get that. But forgiveness is for me. It isn't for them. Corrie ten Boom, I've talked about her before. She tells the story of, she was the family that was hiding Jews during the Holocaust, and she got actually sent to one of the camps. And, there's people being murdered all around her every day. And there was a particular guard that just was really sadistic and evil. And she's a child, 10, 11, 12 years old. She gets freed. She's, a believer this whole time. Many, many, many years later in her adulthood, she's invited to go back to Germany to speak. And her message has always been about forgiveness. Well, she goes into this one particular location and she's giving her message and she looks down and who is on the front row? That guard who had been with her in Auschwitz and who had tortured and, horrible things. And she said she could tell immediately that he knew Jesus now because he glowed and he was at peace. And she's like, yeah, Lord, I'm not forgiving this. Nope, absolutely not. And afterwards, he came up to her, this guard. He has no idea who she is. No clue. And he puts his hand out to her and he's like, oh, Sister Corrie, isn't it great how the Lord forgives? And the Lord, Corrie was like, okay, Lord, you've commanded me to forgive. I don't want to do this. All I feel for hate is hatred for him, but I'm trusting you. And he says to her, Corrie, stick your hand out. That's all I'm asking you to do. So she put her hand out. And when he touched her hand, she said it felt like warm oil covered her whole body. And all of that hatred melted. And she heard in her heart, well done, Corrie. That's how my children behave. Mm. And she had love for this man. Okay.
Supernaturally.
Most of us haven't experienced that level of horrific things. But even if we have, when we look at what the Lord has forgiven and what he went through to forgive us, the torture he went through, the torment, the cat o' nine tails, the naked crucifixion, all the things, all of that was to nail our stuff to him, to our sin to him, right? So who are we to hold what someone else has done in light of what the Lord has done? So I have to recognize, though, that although forgiveness is not a feeling, my feelings about what I'm forgiving matter a lot. There are large camps in the Christian community that are like, well, you just ignore how you feel and you'll feel better one day. That's a lie. That's not how we're wired. No, we are wired for the full range of emotion. I have to go to my healer to heal my feelings. And this is what I learned how to do through Lucy. Jesus, take my resentment. I'm sick of this resentment. I don't want this resentment anymore, but I don't know how to get rid of it. So you got to take it away. Jesus, take my anger, take my hatred, take the frustration, whatever it is. That is a separate transaction completely from forgiveness. I can forgive someone 100 times. And if I'm still seething with anger, that's not because I didn't forgive them. It's because I haven't let go of my anger. Those are separate completely. I have to treat them separate. Okay. Again, it's a transaction. I mean, the word forgiveness is to cancel a debt. It's literally to write paid in full, right? To telestize what Jesus said on the cross, that this debt record that I've held against you, stamped paid in full with the blood of Jesus. Now he's got it. It doesn't matter how I feel about it. It's paid in full. My feelings get handled by the healer of my heart. So they have to be separate. Forgiveness doesn't matter if they are already deceased or not. Irrelevant, completely irrelevant. For some people find it easier to forgive if someone's deceased, especially if they were extremely traumatized by this person. Some people find it much harder because they got no closure. Now they regret their last conversation, what have you. Again, these are healing things that Jesus can walk me through. It is a choice. At the end of the day, it's a choice. And we have way more power to choose than we think we have. If I tell myself 100 times, I'll never forgive this, I can't forgive this, that becomes my reality. But if I say, I don't know if you're familiar with the program called Forgiving Forward, they use a phrase for people who are really struggling with forgiveness. It's, all right, Jesus, you are the forgiver. So through you, Jesus, the forgiver, I'm choosing forgiveness for this person. And what I also tell people is if they're struggling to forgive, and it's a lifetime of abuse and trauma, whatever, try something small, one small thing. Let's say, here's a thing. My birthday is right before Christmas. It's a terrible time to have a birthday. Always has been, always will be, just is. And even into my adult life, the gifts from my parents for my birthday were always wrapped in Christmas paper. Always. Still. And someone who's got a birthday in July never gets a birthday present wrapped in Christmas paper. It just doesn't occur to anyone. And it sounds petty, but it's a thing. You know, when you're already struggling with a Christmas birthday and the whole world is on vacation and no one comes to your birthday party, it's an issue, right? I mean, it's rough. I feel really bad for people who have to have that. But anyway, let's just say that's the one thing that just happened. See what happens if I forgive just that.
Something small.
Start something small and easy to forgive that doesn't have a lot of, legs and stuff connected to it. And it is amazing that when I'm willing to start small, it becomes so much easier. It really does.
Wow. When I think of your story, I think there's a really important piece as well that the Lord opened up to you in realizing that moment when your young self went to your mom and told her what was happening to you.
Yep.
And she did not protect you.
Nope.
We expect adults as children to protect us, to keep us safe. And I remember I listened to something of yours where you shared what your mom said to you. And so I would love for you to share that. And then how do you step out of that piece? Because there's some compassion that came in your story.
Yeah.
Maybe not everybody thinks about. You'd like to share?
Yeah. So I distinctly remember the conversation, and I'm young. I'm 6, maybe 7. And this has been going on for years already. It was a normal part of life. And sadly, there's a lot of people that have that story. So I shared this, and I don't even know what prompted me to say, hey, Mom, this is happening. And we're actually had gone to the grocery store and we're climbing out of the car with a couple grocery bags. And she didn't even look at me. And she's like, well, you need to tell him to stop. You make it stop. And you shouldn't be climbing over him anyway.
6-year-old.
Yeah.
Take that responsibility.
Yeah.
What's happening to you. And in reality, you're the victim. Yeah.
And so there's a distinct wall that comes up is like, okay, well, I'm really on my own. I had assumed I was on my own, but now it's abundantly clear that I'm in this all by myself. And so the compassion, as I began to heal and forgive that and name, Mom, I forgive you for not protecting me and for blaming me and for the hurt that put on me, all that. Coming to the place where I was able to see that she was paralyzed by the news. And there was already so much at stake. I didn't share this in the book, I don't believe, but her mom told her literally she's about to walk down the aisle when she was getting married to my dad. I'm convinced it won't work. You can come home when you're ready. Who does that on their wedding day? Like you're literally ready to get walk down the aisle. And sharing this with my dad would have just blown the whole family apart, right? And she could not afford that. She could not afford what this would have looked like to the rest of the family, to expose the people who, like, the exposure was so great in her mind that we can't face it. And that actually was kind of her norm. We bury everything, you know. We don't cry at funerals. We don't tell people about our bad days and sad days. You know, we just demonstrate them around the house, but we don't tell people about these things. We don't go to therapy. And so what I learned was simply that she had nowhere to put it, felt trapped, paralyzed, shocked, all the things. But because she didn't know what to do, she just chose not to do anything. And it was safer for her to blame the messenger. It just was, even though the messenger was a child. But I fundamentally remember the shift in her perception of me, that, you know, I felt like maybe that I was a threat to her, that she maybe saw me as tainted or something. Like there was a shift that happened then. But I know now that it wasn't intentional. She just, you know, Satan had a hold of her in a lot of ways. I mean, she loved Jesus. She is dancing in heaven now, but she carried a lot of her own baggage that she was never able to let go of. So she was reacting out of her own lenses, her own truths, her own baggage, all that.
And there's some grace involved in that. It doesn't make the situation right.
Absolutely.
I'm heartbroken for 6-year-old you hearing, hearing that and having to carry that.
Yeah.
Knowing that your mom didn't have the healthy tools, that she hadn't gone through the healing process, that she wasn't raised in an environment of health where we just shove things under the rug. So therefore she shoved things under the rug. Mm-hmm. Breaking those generational patterns is so important. It sounds like that hard work for you is what broke those chains and freed you to be able to have that compassion and that love for what she's experienced in her life, and also to change your expectations of what you wanted from her.
Yeah. And it has changed this compassion thing. It is supernatural if someone's, you know, yelling at a cashier at the store or taking too long to, you know, find their wallet, whatever, staring at the green light while they can't. There's now a supernatural capacity where before I would be like, what is wrong with you? Why can't you blah, 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 blah. And now the first thought is, I wonder what's happened in their day-to-day that has made this such a bad day for them. Like, I wonder if they just lost a spouse, or they just got a diagnosis, or like they just had to work a double. Like, it's changed the first concept that I have about how other people act, which is supernatural.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. That's one thing that when we're working with our ladies too, instead of saying, what's wrong with you? What happened to you?
Yeah, what happened to you? Yeah.
Such a shift in how we look at things. Oh my goodness. So,
and it's more like what Jesus would think.
Right?
It's the first thing he would think.
He's after our heart, not our behavior. What's going on in there? Yeah. Oh, man. Well, if someone was listening today and heard your story and feels stuck in that anger, in that shame, that resentment towards a parent or towards anyone, may have been evoked a little bit by our conversation, what encouragement would you give them?
Yeah. So first, it's never too late. I've prayed with people that are in their mid-70s who, for the first time, are forgiving something that happened when they were 12. So it's never too late. Truly, there is nothing that is unforgivable. The world would vehemently disagree with that, but the Word of God is very, very clear. We don't ever want to make light of what we're forgiving. Someone could have what the world would call a very minor embarrassment, and it devastates them for years. And we want to honor that, even if everyone's like, well, you know, did you get this and this and this done to you? We can't compare that with others and think what I went through isn't really enough to worry about, right? If that mattered to you, it matters to you. And verbatim, Psalm says what matters to me matters to the Lord. Okay, it matters. First of all, Jesus is the master exchanger. He is a constant state of, the original salvation is him exchanging our death for his life, right? Our poverty for his abundance, our shame for his glory, all those things. But that's actually practically applicable with my anger and my, frustration and my bitterness and my resentment. That he says, take my yoke upon you. Come to me, all who are labor and are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. That's not just, taking a nap. It's literal physical rest from all the stuff you've been carrying on you, right? This stuff affects your physical body. So if you can imagine that the things that have been dumped on you through no fault of your own, most of the time, that I don't actually have to carry these things. Just because the world put this on me or the so-and-so put this on me, I don't have to carry it. I assume, well, this is what I'm wearing, so I guess this is mine to carry. No, it's not. Jesus says, no, give it over. I will carry it for you because that's what I paid for. And no, I will give you peace and joy and contentment and whatnot in exchange. I think this is important to say for the person who's struggling to kind of get over the hump. Forgiving with an expectation that now they're going to do right, and now they're going to change, and now they're going to apologize, and now they're going to treat me better. That's a setup for great frustration and great disappointment, because I can't forgive with an agenda. Because God will not interfere with the free will of man, and I cannot change the free will of another man or a woman. I can't do that. I can deal with my free will, and I can submit it to the Lord. So again, going back to Corrie ten Boom, when she said she forgave, forgiveness is the key to the unlocks a cage prison door, and you were the one that was in the prison and you didn't know it. And that is what it is. Is it easy? No. Do we need to feel all the feelings connected to it? Yes. We need to weep. We need to mourn. We need to grieve. We need to be very honest. There's a misnomer in some circles that forgiveness is, I choose to forgive, and it's all better. And most of the time, that's not what forgiveness looks like. Sometimes forgiveness is through gritted teeth. God, I don't want to forgive this. I have been dishonored again. I don't deserve this. This is not fair. I'm choosing as an act of my will to forgive. Lord, this isn't fair. This hurts. You say to forgive. I'm choosing to forgive. I don't want this anger. I don't want this offense. Take it. I don't want it. Lord, cover me with yourself. Take this anger. Give it, I give it to you. That is sometimes what forgiveness looks like in real life. And God is not offended by that. He's not. He's not offended by transparency, by honesty. David, look at David. Oh my gosh. If you read the Psalms, he's blatantly honest about his emotions. We need to be the same way. And when I know that there's a Jesus that grieves for me, one of the chapters is actually my seeing Jesus grieving for me in a moment of abuse. Wait, what? That's biblical. He is acquainted with my grief. Jesus is righteously angry at the things that were done to you. He grieves at the things that were stolen from you. He weeps with those who weep. He mourns with those who mourn. We have a Jesus who relates to that. And when I let that Jesus in, life-changing.
Oh, so good, Nanci. I think we could talk all day about this stuff. I love it. I love it. Well, I know people are going to listen, and we're going to have you back in a couple weeks talking about inner healing, a little bit more, and that heart healing that you experience, because I want to take that one moment and pull that apart a little bit more too. In the meantime, how can people find you? How can people get Angry Daughter?
Yeah. So my website is lambornauthor.inc, and that's INK, like ink from a pen, lambornauthor.inc. My Instagram handle is at @lambornauthor. My Facebook page is at Lamborn Author, and that's LAMBORN author for both of those. Angry Daughter is available on Amazon, both Kindle, paperback, and on Audible. Yay.
Yes.
And it's actually on Google Play Books as an ebook as well. And it's going to be in a Chattanooga bookstore starting next month. So that's exciting.
Woo, that's awesome.
Yeah,
and then you have two other projects that you got out after that. And that just came out last year. So you've been a lady.
Yeah. So my first novel, which is based on a true story of a miracle I got to participate in, that's called Crazy Has a Name. So that came out beginning of this year. And then just a couple months ago, I released a 30-day heart healing devotional that's called The Shift. And it's breaking down kind of this process, like I went with Lucy, to just take one issue with the Lord for 30 days. And it's, several days on forgiving, several days on releasing lies, several days on this and this and this to work through the stuff. So that's called The Shift. and that's on Amazon as well. And we just started recording Audible on that one. And so that'll be out probably by the end of the year.
Fantastic. Nanci, thank you so much. Thank you for your courage, for your honesty, and the hope that you bring through being honest and sharing what you've gone through with the Lord. He's incredible, and you have a powerful testimony of God's healing work. So thank you for sharing with us, and I look forward to having you back on.
All right, great.
Thanks for listening. I pray you found hope in today's conversation and maybe even feel a little less alone in your story. Stay connected with us on Facebook and Instagram at Reclaimed Story. Want to learn more about living a reclaimed life and how you can be a part of our growing community of reclaimers? Check out our website at reclaimedstory.com. All of those links and more will be in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this inspirational podcast, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. Not only will you be the first one to know when new content comes out, but it is also a huge help in helping us reach more people to live the reclaimed life.